Pelipper and Urshifu. Wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of hedged bets from both sides, something like Urshifu plus Calyrex Shadow Rider, but no, just the Incineroar and the Shadow Rider up against the Raging Bolt and Calyrex Ice Rider on Ryan's side.
Well, as we enter into the grand finals of the LA Regional Championships, both of our trainers are going to lead with their single restricted right away. The Shadow Rider Calyrex next to the Incineroar and the Raging Bolt, and Ice Rider Calyrex here for Ryan.
This isn't an Assault Vest Raging Bolt, there is no Snarl, so a little bit more vulnerable to Astral Barrage and not going to be able to disrupt the Calyrex Shadow Rider on the other side quite as much. Of course, the Calyrex Ice Rider has to be fearful of Astral Barrage plus knockoff, probably enough damage to pick up a KO. Wouldn't be surprised to see a very quick Terastallization here to keep the Calyrex Ice Rider safe, but also Calyrex Ice Rider can just protect itself like Raging Bolt, try to deal with these two Pokemon for a couple of turns since the Fake Out could be coming in anyway.
Yeah, and it's not too bad to maybe just kind of go for that Terastallization anyway. I think it's really tough when you're taking a look at the Calyrex, though. It's like, well, I would love to be able to just make sure I can set up a Trick Room, but I think you're in a position now, just try to get off a little bit more damage, don't you think?
Trying to get as much damage as possible, never a bad idea. Either player could just take decisive KOs on this turn. This is a volatile position. It's not just some safe, diffused, passive position, and it's the Raging Bolt actually going for the Electric Terastallization, trying to amplify its damage and look for big KOs.
This has been a very, very fast meta as Regulation G has developed, as we do see this Fake Out into the Ice Rider Calyrex. It provides an opening here for the Shadow Rider Calyrex on Montana side to go for a big nasty plot to increase its special attack, but the Raging Bolt not only getting a boost from the booster energy, but also being able to get that Thunderbolt is going to do some huge damage into that Calyrex before it gets a chance to attack on this next turn.
A really smart play from Ryan. Getting the Thunderbolt into Calyrex on that turn means the Calyrex can't just go out on the offense with Astral Barrage next turn, or it would risk falling prey to a Thunderclap. But if you play passive for even one turn, that could give Calyrex Ice Rider the window to go for Trick Room. So you can't just do something like Protect Calyrex and go into Clefairy, like, I'll follow me the Thunderclap and then I'll be safe, because by then there may be Trick Room up.
Yeah, but that's where this Incineroar can really come into play here on Montana side. You've already invested the Terastallization into this Raging Bolt, which means that this Calyrex can no longer get away from something like that knockoff. It would remove the Clear Amulet, do a ton of damage, and also mean that this Ice Rider Calyrex could get kept in check. Just things like the Parting Shot, as well as something like the Intimidate's coming back in. But even though the Thunderclap was something that Ryan was pressuring into this Calyrex, it doesn't even fall for it. It's going to be a huge taunt into this Ice Rider Calyrex, meaning that it's no longer able to go for the Trick Room. Huge play.
Well, Montana finds a couple more boosts, finds a way to disrupt the Trick Room. Raging Bolt still threatening the Thunderclap, but now maybe a little bit safer to try to pivot out into something like Clefairy to deal with the Thunderclap. And Montana does it in style, not just getting the Protect on the previous turn, but getting another nasty plot off, recognizing that it wasn't going to be a Glacial Lance on that turn, wasn't going to be a Thunderbolt. And so now Calyrex Shadow Rider so threatening at +4 special attack. Incineroar weaving in Taunt at just the right moment, now able to have Calyrex Shadow Rider protect itself, and Incineroar should be able to get off the field after maybe taking a giant Thunderbolt.
Yeah, I mean, the Thunderbolt is definitely still going to be a problem, because that is still like a double stab. You got the Parting Shot, though, into this Raging Bolt to lower its special attack just a little bit, but here's that pivot you were talking about to get something else a little bit better alongside that Shadow Rider Calyrex.
You have to imagine it's the Clefairy coming in. That'll be the thing that disrupts the Thunderclap. And with just a Glacial Lance coming in this turn, Clefairy's not threatened with a KO here. And that opens up the massive offense. Playing with a Calyrex Shadow Rider team, it's all about finding these windows for big offense, and Montana has created one, with Clefairy taking the Glacial Lance and only taking 50%. It can now follow me to prevent a Thunderclap, and +4 Astral Barrage both of these Pokemon. That should be enough damage to threaten a KO into both of them. That's a terrifying position to be in if you're Ryan. It's not easy to switch into. We can see what Pokemon he has in the back. The Pelipper could come in and survive with a Focus Sash, but something's going to have to stay vulnerable here. Calyrex can't protect itself because of the taunt, and so it's the thing that goes out into Pelipper and saves the Calyrex Ice Rider for later on in the game.
Yeah, it gives you an opportunity to maybe get the speeds back in your favor, especially knowing that Trick Room would help to turn the tides for you with that speed control, but Clefairy going for the Follow Me here, just playing it safe, and this poor Pelipper. At least the Focus Sash will also deny something else really important. Outside of the KO, it's also going to deny that Grenade boost to give the Shadow Rider Calyrex even more oomph.
really critical for Pelipper to survive and actually be on the field as well, because now it's threatening a wide guard. This is a really difficult decision for Montana. If you just follow me in Astral Barrage while getting wide guarded, then that Raging Bolt can just Thunderbolt and take Clefairy off the field and reopen the opportunity for Thunderclap. And if you try to expect the wide guard and just have Pelipper go on the offense, you could actually just lose both Pokemon on this turn. So I think a really difficult position, a really tricky moment that could decide this game one. This could be the kind of moment where one restricted Pokemon goes down or creates like an unsurmountable advantage.
This is definitely a very difficult position to be in, especially when a metagame that is as fast as this means that the margins for error are so small. This Shadow Rider Calyrex is going to terrestrialize into the Fairy type, and maybe if it goes for something like the Draining Kiss, it's able to actually get a ton of HP back, especially when you know that this Pelipper has this wide guard available to protect your team. But Clefairy going for the Follow Me means we will have to wait just a couple more seconds to see what the Shadow Rider Calyrex decided to lock into, but it is the Draining Kiss, plays around the wide guard perfectly, landing that into the Raging Bolt, dealing a one-hit knockout, and getting all of that HP back.
Just an incredible play. Montana finds the way through, correctly predicts the wide guard is coming out, doesn't fall for it, doesn't Astral Barrage these Pokemon. And Ryan thinks that means it'll create an opportunity for a Thunderbolt, maybe KO the Clefairy. But with the Fairy Terrestrialization and the +4 boost from the 2 nasty plots that Montana managed to find on turn 1 and 2, the Draining Kiss is actually a KO. Now the threat of wide guard is still here. This game is by no means over. The wide guard can be used to protect the Calyrex for a turn. If it's able to take a now +5 Draining Kiss, then it could try to get a Trick Room up and repivot the situation in Ryan's favor. Before the moment, the Calyrex Shadow Rider has +5 special attack and full health.
That is absolutely wild, because it means it's going to be able to withstand hopefully one of these attacks. Especially knowing that, like, you do have this Ice Rider Calyrex that typically is on the bulkier side. You might not just be a one-hit knockout for it. With the Helping Hand coming through, it means there's no wide guard this turn, but did Montana call it correctly? Because this Shadow Rider Calyrex is going all out on the offensive with a Helping Hand from this Clefairy as well. And if it is not going to call the wide guard, it's still going to be a Draining Kiss, and that is going to be a lot of damage into this Calyrex. Basically a one-hit knockout. And this is a huge amount of damage removed yet again here for Ryan, and that's a +6 Calyrex.
You have to imagine Ryan just keeps not expecting quite the sheer damage output that Calyrex Shadow Rider is capable of. Picking up the basic one-hit KO onto Calyrex Ice Rider with the +5 Terra Fairy boosted, Helping Hand boosted, Draining Kiss, and just ending this game as Ryan concedes game 1. The horse is unstoppable. It is Draining Kissing everything, and Montana takes game 1.
It was so tough in that endgame too, because Clefairy
Regional final. But game 1 is not all it takes. We're into game 2, Montana, with the Calyrex Shadow Rider and Ensign led against the Calyrex Ice Rider and Raging Bolt for Ryan.
Okay, so a run back for these leads for both of our trainers, but this turn 1 is gonna have to go a little bit differently for Ryan if he wants to keep himself in this fight, in this best of 3. If Montana wins it here, that's the regional championship for him.
The game plan that Ryan brought of immediately electric terrestrializing Raging Bolt and going for Thunderbolt into Calyrex Shadow Rider seemed really strong in the moment, but it trades a lot away. When you're forced to then leave the Calyrex Ice Rider in the Ice Psychic type for the rest of the game, it makes it a lot more difficult to play with, and ultimately that damage amplification from Raging Bolt didn't quite do enough because Montana found the way through. So you have to imagine Ryan's going to be thinking about different game plans or thinking of some spot, some turn in that sequence from last game where he feels like if I had just done the right thing here, I don't need to change it on the first turn, but if I do the right thing here or here, that goes differently. And so he's willing to run back the turn 1.
It's possible that it maybe even that decision is just not going for the Thunderclap, something that Montana played around so beautifully on that second turn after getting that Shadow Rider Calyrex so low. So Ryan opts to invest in this terrestrialization on the Raging Bolt once again. This Electric Terra going to help boost up these electric types even further as the fake out goes into this Ice Rider Calyrex. But this time around, Montana's just gonna go on the offense. It's just gonna be an Astral Barrage into both targets. That Ice Rider Calyrex barely able to hang on through all of that noise as the Thunderbolt in response is going to be enough to whittle it down once again. But this Ice Rider Calyrex, where's the staying power now if it's taken so much damage?
You're exactly right. That's the substantial difference from game 1. With Calyrex this low, you don't have to find an avenue for an Astral Barrage. You don't have to try to taunt the Disrupt Trick Room. Incineroar can finish off this KO. Anything but Clefairy can finish off this KO. Montana stays one turn ahead, says if you're not going to defensively Terastallize the Calyrex and you're just going to go out on the offense, I can match offense with offense. Of course, Calyrex does still have to watch out for a Thunderclap. Incineroar has to be careful to just attacking into Protect and getting worn down itself by Thunderbolt or Thunderclap. Of course, Calyrex can also switch and create new positions for Montana to deal with, but so far on the surface, feels like a pretty strong turn for Montana, but one that sets up a different game where the Calyrex does not have so many boosts it's going to sweep through, instead just going to switch out and come back in at a later opportunity.
Wow, well here's a little bit of a switch up as well. It's going to be the Rillaboom that's going to take that Shadow Rider Calyrex's place. A smart call to make when you are expecting that this Ice Rider Calyrex may want to protect itself in the face of danger, and it's also going to help with the Thunderclap as well, but the knockoff into the Ice Rider Calyrex, it's just not going to get a chance to move in this game number 2. It goes down.
Montana builds on his lead from turn 1 with the exact right inputs into what Ryan decided in game 2. The Thunderclap is failed. Montana just safeguards the Calyrex Shadow Rider for the future, and the Calyrex Ice Rider stays on the field. It just ends up getting taken down by knockoff, and the Rillaboom looks so different in this matchup when the Calyrex Ice Rider is already down. Still has to watch out for Hurricane from Pelipper. There's still ways to quickly get rid of Rillaboom, but the biggest obstacle for it, which is just having to take a Glacial Lance at some point, has already been removed. And this Raging Bolt is pretty low itself, and with not a Dragon typing anymore, is going to be vulnerable to something like Wood Hammer and just getting KO'd before it moves.
Yeah, and I think you have to look at the Pelipper as well. Maybe a little bit more vulnerable, knowing that you do have the opportunity to just get Fake Outed in order to break the Focus Sash. But one way to get around that is to be able to use this Helping Hand that does have that increased priority, and it's going to help out this Thunderbolt's output as well into this Incineroar. It's just going to be a one-hit knockout. A little bit of good faith going in Ryan's direction to get a huge KO here, but the Wood Hammer in response, it's gonna bring that Pelipper down so low. Doesn't need the Focus Sash to be able to hang around, but you're still continuing to whittle away at this damage output that Ryan has.
Montana makes a trade in a game he's winning. Usually that is the right direction to go, but it's a little bit of a risky one. Incineroar going down gives one of the crucial pivoting pieces off the board, and this Raging Bolt isn't dealt with yet. Of course, Clefairy is a great answer for the Raging Bolt, not because it's going to do damage into the Raging Bolt, but because it's so easy to mitigate what damage Raging Bolt can do when you have the Rillaboom down. Montana instead prioritizing getting damage onto the Pelipper because it's one of the biggest damage threats back into Rillaboom, and that could disrupt Montana's game plan at this point.
Well, the follow me from the Clefairy will help to keep this Rillaboom safe. Might have felt free to just go for a Grassy Glide into that Pelipper, but instead, this Rillaboom is going to pack a bit more of a punch, not going for that priority attack. Has to sacrifice this Clefairy in the process, but it wants to go for the Wood Hammer into this Raging Bolt on the other side. Is able to get the knockout there and bring Ryan down to his final 2 Pokemon. But it's the same thing for Montana. This has been an explosive set so far, and we might be nearing the conclusion.
Both players willing to make trades means this game is resolving quickly. We're down to 2-2, but for Ryan, I think this is the right 2-on-2 to have. Has the Choice Scarf Urshifu left at the end of the game. As long as it can take a Grassy Glide, then it can threaten the KO onto Calyrex Shadow Rider before it can move, which would leave Pelipper to Hurricane the Rillaboom before it can do anything but target into Urshifu. Of course, lots of other ways this can go. Rillaboom can Grassy Glide into the Pelipper instead of take it down, recognizing the Calyrex is just a lost cause, at which point Rillaboom probably wins an endgame if it can get rid of Pelipper. So I think it's some really important targeting for both players, but it seems like there's definitely an avenue, an option of choices that either can make that would win them the game. Montana seems to be in a little bit of an advantageous position because he can just prioritize Rillaboom getting rid of Pelipper. Urshifu, with the Choice Scarf, can't lock into a move that easily deals with both Rillaboom and Calyrex.
So you've got to make a call here, and it's not a very easy one, especially when U-turn is not going to be the most impactful of moves, despite the fact that it is going to be super effective into the other side. But this Shadow Rider Calyrex, it's got 4 more lives to stand on here as it takes its Fairy Terastallization and is going to hope for the best. It wants to maybe even boost up something like that Draining Kiss to make sure that it's going to be getting even more damage back, but as the Pelipper goes for the Helping Hand, it is going to get taken out. So smart call to just go for that increased priority to boost up this Urshifu's damage in the rain with the stab. This Surging Strikes into the Rillaboom. Looks like it is going to be very close, and close just might not cut it as that Rillaboom Rillaboom is able to hang around with the Shadow Rider Calyrex also going to be able to go for an attack here. This Urshifu might just be down for the count, as it's going to be the Draining Kiss. Getting a little bit more boost thanks to that Fairy Terrestrialization. It's just a one-hit knockout anyway. And with that, Draining Kiss, Montana Mott becomes your Los Angeles Regional Champion.
So well played from Montana. 2 different game plans over 2 games to cleanly take that